Is there a formula for producing the perfect 2000s era R&B remix for the club while only taking 6 hours to finish? Well, in this video, we're going to see if we can remix Ciara's classic song, 1-2 Step, into a club-ready disco house tune in just 4 quick steps that even beginner producers can use for their own remix projects. By the end of this video, we're going to see if it's possible to write, structure, mix, and master a professional quality remix in under 6 hours by using a simple production technique that most artists ignore. What you're listening to right now is the finished remix that we'll be breaking down today. Because having produced music for over 15 years, remixing songs in this specific way is easily the fastest and most fun way that I've come across. You can download this video's project files, as well as over 30 full project files inspired by Beatport Top 100 songs, with new files being added weekly. Just visit the link on screen or in the description. And if finishing songs super fast like this is something you'd like help with, you can also download a free bundle of templates, samples, and special bonuses that I use to completely finish one song per week. But for now, let's start with the first of the 4 quick and easy steps we'll be covering today. First, make sure your song is inspired by the quality of a professional example by choosing a reference track. But stop yourself from straight up copying your reference by having a new hook to focus on. All right, so for each one of the projects we work on here, I like to make a project file page like this to kind of go over like the small details and all of the process more in detail so you can kind of look at it at your own pace. But for this one, when it comes to choosing the reference track and the remix track, I actually did not pick either of these. Right now, I'm joined with my friend Steven Slider. He goes by Slider, and he's a really sick DJ. He's from Austin, Texas, has played a bunch of cool festivals, signed a bunch of cool labels, and also is the owner of a group out there called Disco Nap. And Steve, why don't you just jump in, kind of talk to us through these two choices, because this song ended up being really badass.
Yeah. Thanks for that intro, Matt. And hello, fellow Best Friends Club. So I'm also a subscriber, been a fan of Matt's work for a long time. And Disco House is actually what brought us together. Interestingly enough, I was searching for a very particular sound, which is the sub bass and the mid bass guitar. And Matt has actually got a project up there in the past that he did. It was a David Penn record, and found it. And then we linked up, did some video chats, and that's how this project came about, was through Disco House. And this is one of my favorite tracks that has always been a safe bet for me. It's the Sugar Hill For Me record. And it is quite a great song. The mid bass and that bass guitar just sounds so good in it. And the bass notes are a very melodic, steady driving force in the song with a walk, like every 8 kicks. So Matt and I came up with the idea of, why don't we use this as a reference track? And so we came up with wanting to use that as an inspiration and then doing our own twist. The first record that popped up to my mind to do that is Ciara's 1-2 Step. So I also play like weddings, corporate events on the side. DJ life hack, you can have an artist name and then you can create a side business name, and you can keep the identity separate. And so, when I'm working for Full Scope, my company here in Austin, Ciara's 1-2 Step is one of the safest songs you can probably play to get a credit. And so, we came up with that idea. And then it also happened that these keys seem to somewhat be fluid and work, right, Matt?
Yeah, so like we were kind of starting to play with the idea, like came with these really cool ideas that sound like something that would work. And then we were doing a little bit like looking into the music theory to kind of figure out how we'd actually go about putting this together. The reference is in C minor, but the remix is in F major. And so like there's like a difference there, right? It's not minor and major. And I think when we were playing it, like it ended up just working without any kind of pitching up or down. And we were trying to figure out
Yeah.
why. It might be that like F major includes the note C, and the
Mhm.
bass line was mostly kind of like pedaling on that C, right? Is that how we ended
Yeah.
up building the bass line?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So it was mostly just a C note. We did a basic walk, and then I added a little bit of variation to kind of make it our own. And then we did some extra sound design on that bass to make it really, really jump
yeah,
in the track.
so it was pretty cool. I think there also might be something to the fact of what was it, C minor? No, it was a mystery. It seemed like it might like we just hit like the magic lottery of like not hitting the wrong notes. And yeah, it ended up coming together pretty nicely. So we're gonna jump into Ableton next and kind of show you how we kind of worked through this collab and built the tune out. If you want to check out anything, we might go a little bit fast in the video. On any of these guides, there's a bunch of tutorials. So if you want to jump into anything and more specifically, you can go check this out here. And there's also a YouTube playlist in the link in the description if you want to check out any of these videos as well. But with that said, let's jump into Ableton. All right, so this is a look at the project file after the first call that we had. And so what we did at this point is we wanted to get like a draft loop up really quickly. So what we did is we dropped the reference track into here. So we have that Sugar Hill tune right in here, and it sounds a little like this. And we've set it up so we can flick back and forth by pressing the S button on our keyboard. So we can flick to the reference and what we're building to kind of match the pattern and the sound selection and get the volumes correct. That's kind of the main thing in the 80-20 rule. That we also did here is we created one of these arrangement or structure tracks using empty MIDI clips. So we can kind of figure out where these sections of the song are. And this is going to come in really big and handy when we're taking this loop and trying to stretch it out into a full arrangement. Once we did that, we also used some AI to separate out the vocals, which ended up sounding like this.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat rolls right through my chest.
And we're doing just a little bit of some channel strip processing here. So we're just removing some lows. We have some one knob sidechain going on here. Again, all these things will have full YouTube videos on if you want to check this out, how to build out stuff using a channel strip and to mix as you go really quickly. That's something that we're doing the entire time here. So now that we have the vocals set up, what we want to do is get like a backbone of the tune done as quickly as possible. So what we did here is we found a section of the tune where like the drums and the instrumental sounds quite full in the reference track. And then we used AI to separate out the drums. And then we used we cut out the lows here in an effort to essentially remove the kick drum. And then what that sounds like is this. So this is exactly the drums from the reference track. So it's very, very similar. And then we remove the kick drum with the EQ in this way. So then what we can do then is we can grab a slice of that kick from either the AI slice or from like the extended intro of the reference track. And we can drop it into this really cool plugin. It's a beta plugin called Drum Clone. And so when you drop in the slice, it sounds like this. So you can hear there's like a lot of like hi-hats and like kind of gunk and extra crap. And what this does is it will resynthesize that kick. So it'll analyze that sample and then create a synthesized version, which sounds nice and full and ready to go. So once we have that, when you put the drums together with the kind of AI drum top loop and that new synthesized kick, what you get is this. Which sounds pretty sick, and that's giving us a pretty good backbone of the tune so that we can quickly move on to what I think is really, really important is the melodic elements of the tune. Because really, like I find it, especially when I show you the tricks that you're going to be able to do here to recreate the drums, super easy to get like a faithfully recreated drum loop that sounds good, but it's all like the melodic elements, like how the bass and the chords and all of those extra melodic elements are going to interact with the vocals. That's where things could really start to not sound good, and that's where you might have to abandon the tune. So the quicker you can get to the point where you have like a solid groove and you still have control over the low end and you can start working on the melodic stuff to really shape that out, I think the better. So at this point, what I would then do is also work on the bass, because the bass is going to be so fundamental to any dance tunes. And then also it's a pretty simple way that we can do this, because what I'm using is something called Nuo Stems, which is the AI that I use to separate out the drums and everything from tracks. What I like about it is this, like when it's separated out the drums, as you can see here, it also separated out the bass, which sounds like this. And what's useful about that is a couple things. One is you can kind of extract little cuts out of this and use the show similar sound feature within Ableton to get something that sounds similar within your library. But also you can grab the audio file, drag it into an empty MIDI clip, and you can convert that audio to MIDI by using the melody function here to get something in the ballpark of that original tune. So we're going to kind of quickly go through the bass here that we have here. So what we have is this sub sound here. And then using the bass grouping method that I have, we added in this bass guitar sound here. Is that correct? And then with the sub. So this gives us control of the low end with the sub here, and then it also gives us like the more characteristics that we're looking for with the mid bass layer, and we can adjust the mid bass layer to our heart's content without having any kind of impact on the low end. So we can kind of do as much sound design as we want. So for the sub, in this case, what we're using is a little serum preset that Steven made here. Let me samurai that. What we're using is a preset that Steven used here. It's basically just a sine wave sub, so there's nothing too much going on here. Some processing here that's probably not too needed, but it is there on the sub. And this is actually just like the... let me delete all of that, actually. So what we have here is like a sub sound that Steven created. He's actually going to jump in on this track breakdown in just a few minutes, so we won't go too much into it. And then this is being automatically routed into this bass guitar layer here. There's a bass grouping video that I have. You can check out on the page as well as in the playlist that shows you how to automatically route the MIDI from this into a different track. And the main thing is we're just pitching it up so that it's a full octave up from what the sub is playing. It just happens to sound better with this instrument. We're using this bass guitar sound that I sampled out myself. And then we're just cutting out a bunch of the low end so that the sub is taking care of most of that low end. But with that said, we're going to jump into a separate video here where Steven's going to jump in, kind of go a little bit more into the details of how he adjusted the bass sounds. But at this stage, this was within the first like 30 or 40 minutes of the first call where we kind of just got everything sounding okay together. And the idea is that we want to be able to then adjust the notes that the bass is playing so that it kind of bounces off the vocals a little bit more, and then also moves it into some more unique territory. So this phase, within just not too long, maybe 30 minutes or so, we were able to have something that sounds like this.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. With my body so melodic, this beat goes right through my chest.
So there's like a pretty nice little fundamental here that we can then build off of this tune and start really working it. So we're gonna now jump over into like a Zoom call that we had with Steven, and Steven's gonna go over some of the bass and the vocals, and then we'll throw it back to me. We'll go over a bit more of the some of the extra melodic elements that we added, and go over some of the mixing and mastering that we did for this one.
All right, so first we're gonna crack into the bass. We got inspired for the bass from Sugar Hill's For Me. So the beats were pretty simple, just some melodic, different bass notes. And then it has that walk, which kind of like resets it. It has that walk that goes up. I added some variation a little bit just to kind of switch things up. And then it has that disco, very quintessential octave bounce. So what you'll hear in a ton of disco records, and if you're producing disco at home, this is the ultimate key. Whatever note that you're playing, you can then play the octave higher of it, and it'll give that funky riff that you'll need to do with it. The other fun variation that I do with disco as well is not only the octave higher, but then the double hit, the double note that you can just, it'll make it kind of have an extra bouncier sound to it. So that's what we did with the bass and the sub. For the sub as well, I use Safari pedals, and with Safari pedals, there's a bull pedal, which is awesome. It'll make your sub, it'll really give it some depth to it, and that's how we came across with the bass notes. If you want to hear it, we can solo it out so you guys can hear what it sounds like. And then with the song, we muted the bass in the beginning part, which is fun and funky, and that was also off of the Sugar Hill 4 track. So as you can tell, it comes in, it starts muted, which we got that inspiration from the For Me track. And then the track just bangs in, which is a ton of fun. The other thing that I helped Matt with a lot on this track was the vocals. Vocal chopping is probably one of my favorite things to do. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. The original chorus sounds like this.
Automatic, supersonic, hypnotic, funky, fresh. Find it, don't stop it. Everybody get on.
As you can tell, it's the original.
We about to get it on. We see it. 1, 2 step.
So we had the chorus, but one thing that I like to do is maybe chop up pieces of the vocal to make it last longer. So what I ended up doing, so as you can tell, I ended up chopping up some of the vocal pieces, and then in the track and the record, there were these little bleeps that Matt and I ended up making into sound effects, which is super cool. And in the song itself, you could hear it come out maybe out of like the left panning or the right panning. And so we made it into its own section and then added some effects to it. So you can hear that little and then little yep. And when you add that with the vocal, and then you add it with this, it really adds it to it.
Yeah, and I just want to jump in there because in particular, I remember when we were working on this, it started off very basic, where it was like just like the chorus where the chorus should be, and I remember then like Steve was working on it for a bunch, and then when he sent it back with that cut up vocal thing, I was like, fuck. Like originally I wanted to like try to mostly be doing my part on like a call, but I heard that and I was like, I gotta go on this. Like it was so cool. Like it really, I feel like that was a big part of this collab because it kind of like set the tone and like really helped push us into like a cool, unique area. Like I was really happy when you cut that up and sent that over.
Yeah, and it really, that's the part of remixing, right? Is the idea of a remix is to remix it, to change the pieces and everything else. And a big part of your ability to do that is going to be the vocals. And the last thing I think, a remixer should do is just literally just slap on the vocals, or then it's an edit, and that's okay to do sometimes too. But one of my favorite things is to actually chop it, and that allows you to have space in the arrangement, and it keeps, I think, the listener engaged. And then the funnest part is now that we've spliced these vocals, where it's just a little piece of it, and then you get a little bit more, And then as in this the arrangement, now we're going to give you a little bit more of the piece, and it's happening more often. Adds to the build. And then as you can tell right here, we took the vocals completely out. So, you know, we kind of were hinting at what was coming. It
Yeah,
builds up, there's a little bit more of it.
yeah, it's like slowly teasing it out, and that also allowed us to like stretch the song out longer, and it's creating this almost like
Yep.
yeah, like a tease, like we're playing a bit of it, giving you a taste, and then pulling it away, and then letting like the instrumental speak for itself, and then bringing it back in, and then finally when like that full vocal comes in, there's like a catharsis, like a big payoff has occurred, like you've been there's been a ton of foreplay, and now you're actually fucking.
There we are. We got it ramped up and ready to go.
Yeah.
And now it's time for that crescendo. The big word that producers and people use is tension.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, just like Matt said, a build up, a tension, and then a justification and a release. And the way that you can do that with vocals is how you chop it up. But the last thing we want to do is give the whole vocal right in the beginning. So as you can tell, I kind of chopped it up to try to keep it interesting, keep the listener engaged. There's a build up where there's more of the vocal. And then once you've earned that right, then you can take the vocals away. And then what we ended up doing here, as you can tell, Matt's really good about creating the arrangement and highlighting it at the top, which gives us a good idea of what is happening. But there were times in the record when Matt and I were working on it that we decided to break away from the reference track, and that's important. The reference track is supposed to give you inspiration, but it is completely okay to start doing your own arrangement. And I feel like the For Me track took longer to build up and to do specific things. And I think we tweaked that. And then one of my favorite parts that I did was the big dramatic break.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say too, that's one of my favorite parts too. Like, there was a bunch of moments where I was like, "Yo, this is turning out so sick." Definitely one of them was that like chopped up vocal, and the other one was when actually I saw it on an Instagram story. You dropped like a little Instagram story showing off this drop, and I remember listening to it, and I watched that Instagram story over like 12 times. Like, yo, this sounds cool. Like the extra tension that you added.
Yeah, and that's also like a producer pro tip as well, is you can kind of tease and share your music via Instagram stories, and I get a lot of love and engagement that way, but you're not giving it all away yet. And record labels absolutely will still sign your record, even though there was a temporary story once of it, so don't be afraid of that. And it's easy to do. It's easy to do where you're excited about it. You can snap a quick 20-30 second video. And that's a part of keeping people engaged. You know, you have to do your reels, your posts, but the stories are probably one of my favorite ways because it's quick. I'm here in the studio. And let's break into the dramatic break, which is super fun. Something I learned from a friend is utilizing these time signatures, this time bar at the
Loop
top.
marker.
Loop marker. Thanks, Matt. So you can loop and drag whole chunks of the project wherever you want to send it all at once. So it is a producing hack that allows you to arrange and to move and drag things in a really, really fast, quick fashion. When some of my producer friends found, good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, me included there, because that was another actually really really awesome thing. Um, if it like that idea of like trying to frustratingly grab every bar and every part of the clip, and then you
Yeah.
missed a piece of it. Like
Yeah.
this is the solution to it.
It totally is, because what did I used to do back in the day, and what I know a lot of us do, is the click here, go all the way to the top, drag, highlight thing. You're gonna spend so much time and headache doing that. You don't have to do that. You can now highlight whole portions and remove it and move stuff. This is also how you can now do fills super easy, is with this trick. So we're giving away secrets for free now. Hopefully you guys use this and it's helpful. Just to give you a little sample. So I want to say the dramatic break happens right here. Yep, I think this is the dramatic break. So what I ended up doing is I highlighted this section, highlighted it all. Oh yeah, it was right here. So we highlighted this whole section, and then I was able to delete everything. So just for example, I'll show you this. You can highlight this section, and then Command X deletes everything. Bam, it's now all deleted. And now you can have just chunks of what you want to with the record. So you could just highlight and put just a bass there if you wanted. You could have just a little bit more of the audio if you wanted. You can have a little bit of the percussion and stuff like that. And so, yeah, in the end with the fills, less is more, and it's your time to highlight just a section of the song. Usually you don't want any kicks, right? The kicks shouldn't be there. You know, a lot of the percussion shouldn't exist there. Background effects and sounds usually will exist in these fills. And then the one thing that I'll probably add is like an actual drum fill sound. I'll remove this and take it back to where it was, so you guys can
Speaking
hear
of
it.
teases,
So there's
play it back a little bit. Let's like hear the drop.
So I'll play it from right here in this section. Matt started adding some of his auto filters and things like that. So we'll play it from right here. You'll hear it basically be filtered out. There's a massive dramatic break that really builds that tension. And then we play just a little bit of the hook. I bring the bass back, and then there's the drop.
1, 2 step, I love it. 1, 2 step, everybody. 1, 2 step, we the best. Work your body, let me see you. 1, 2 step.
Yeah, that right there. So it's like, I think ending at 73 is like the conventional thing, and that's what I went for, vanilla structuring. And then that extra, like, instead of it just going straight into the drop, there's huge tension. Really, really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it probably one of my favorite things to do is to build that tension in that arrangement style. And so normally, you know, it's about 8 kick build up, and then there can be a drop, but play around with it being, you know, the break, and then instead of right where a drop could or would typically happen, add a 4 kick, just different idea. So it's like a break, and then it's the fake secondary break. Heavier house music does that, but you can do it with anything that you like. And then it leads right back to the record. And then from there, with the arrangement, this part. arrangement part is kind of like a psychedelic thing that Matt put in there, which was really, really cool. It's like a bridge psychedelic thing.
So like the spacey,
and so
spaciness there, yeah.
Super, yeah, intense vocals. And so that will lead us to another bar. And this is one of my favorite things to do with arrangement, and this was also my idea, is somewhere in the record. Usually the drops, your first or second one is full. You're bringing everything that you have. But by the second or third-ish drop, now when the drop happens, take everything out and only have the kick, only have the bass, and then maybe just vocals. And it will actually hit harder than most of the other parts of the track, of the simplicity. And then that resets, lets you build the track back up. So I'll play this part just so you can have an audio listen of what that sounds like. I did a little something with the vocals here where we chopped it up. And then I want to say it's right at 101 that we have that gnarly drop. And then I rip everything out. I think I added just still some of the effects. The percussion will halfway come in right here, but not all. So as you'll see from 101 to 105, it's literally just the kick and the bass and the vocals, a little bit of ambiance, there's a little, and then the melodic parts. So I ripped everything out, but I just teased the melodic parts, then it comes in more full. So let's give you guys a listen to what that is and show you how you can put that in your songs. Let's go! Percussion comes in, some of the melodic, and then we redrop it. No flow. Finishes right there. Yeah. And then right there, we're doing the outro. But if you want your finale drop to have some real extra sauce, make it basically naked. Your last drop can be just the kick, just the bass, maybe just a little melodic or sound effect in the background. And then if you have vocals in your song, just make it just the vocals, the kick and the bass. And then that way, because beforehand, the last drop's just the vocals. And when you have a drop with the vocals like that, with the whole kick and everything's there, man, when you make naked, it's the best. It really gives a second oomph and breath of life into the record. And then from there, we just had kind of the outro. And then how do I make my outro? And the way that you do it, by using this top timeline, where you can now copy the whole intro. I think I just literally copied this whole piece and then slapped it at the end. And so knowing how to be able to take large chunks of your song to reuse it will save you all time. And then to give your fills some oomph, using this and then just putting, usually just like a full, 4 kicks or 2 kicks even, and removing everything, and then just giving, a little melodic or vocal part, and then having like a basic drum fill right as it kicks in. That's going to really keep the listener engaged and help you guys do those fills.
Sick. I think that was awesome. Yeah, I think that's a really good breakdown of this one. Thanks so much for working on this tune and taking the time to share a little bit of a breakdown of some of the magic secret sauce that went into it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Always good to see the fellow best friend clubbers. Hopefully it helps you guys out. and we should be, we're label shopping, so we'll let everybody know when the records has a release date, and excited to share it with all of y'all.
All right, so here we are again in the final project file. There's just a few layers I kind of wanted to show off here. Just give you a better idea of some of the more melodic stuff that we added in, maybe on the second or third call of this collaboration. So I can play this over here. So what we have here is basically, it's almost just like a nice little, like, almost collage of different sounds. So it's a lot of call and response is what we kind of built out. So like from the start here, there's almost this little the guitar that happens every once in a while. Really cool stuff. Kind of happens on the back half of each, every couple bars or so. And then each one is kind of playing off of a bunch of different little hits here. So we have this one that also comes in all around the back half. A little almost like organ sound. We have these two guys playing off of each other here. It's almost like a little fill that happens like on a piano or something. And you can see here how the placement of everything, it's all very call and responsey. So it's not taking up the entire track. It's just little slices. And then we're using like a bit of like echo and stuff like that to kind of fill out the sound a little bit. But the beauty of this kind of call and response technique is how everything comes together to kind of bounce off of each other. So a couple of other elements that we could show off here. This little voice that happens. So cool little stuff. So you can see like here, like this is what the original loop was. And then what we did is we just cut up the pieces that we liked. So actually that actually sounds really cool too, but we were going for the remix, but that's a cool little vocal there. But you can see how we just kind of cut things up here. And then we do have also is some like full played out stuff as well. So we have a listen to this kind of piano. So cool little loop, very funky, kind of like sitting in the back there. It adds like a lot of funk and vibe to the tune. I think in terms of any processing that we did on this one, standard channel strip stuff. So if you want to check out the how to like the two mixing videos that I have up on the channel, definitely check that out for a little bit more detailed look in how the channel strip helps you mix as you go super fast. Because we're just quickly removing some of the lows. We have this auto pan, so it's kind of slightly moving to the left and right. And this thing is really cool here, this A1 trigger gate. So what this is adding is almost like a kind of like stuttery kind of echo effect that kind of transforms the loop a little bit more into something a bit more unique. And that's definitely something that I like a lot more of, that like spaced out kind of sounds. And then we're just running into like the standard channel strips here. So we're just doing a little bit of side chaining, and that's really about it for that one. We have some extra drum loops, some more kind of like cool call and response stuff here with this organ. So if we play these two together, you can kind of hear that. So we were trying to go for like kind of that piano house kind of vibe that I think is in the reference, but we wanted to change it up a little bit. So again, we're kind of just cutting up loops more, doing kind of a call and response so that things aren't playing over top of each other. You can see like one plays and then the other plays, one plays and the other plays, calling and responding. And we do have like this one playing as well in the background. Let's have a listen to this. A bit more standard piano housey sound, and you can hear when like these all play together how there's a call and response. So there's one playing and then this responds, this plays, this responds, then this plays, then this responds, kind of bounce off of each other. And what's cool is they're like slightly different sounds. They're still pianos, kind of keyboard sounds, but they're definitely different sounds, different samples being cut up and sliced together. So they're kind of a good look at the melodic stuff there. Again, we can kind of hear all the melodic stuff on its own. So it's like a combination of like sliced up samples and then some samples playing by themselves as well to kind of create this soundscape all together. And then real quick going through some of the drums. So I think in this instance, I think with a collab things can get like could go in an interesting different way. So for this one, I think we ended up having some loops that we used at the start that we were layering on top of the AI loop that we had. So like by this final one, we've removed that AI drum loop. The AI drum loop was just like I've been mentioning to get to the point of being able to add all those melodic elements and making sure that they work well with the vocal and the overall hook and everything is sounding good before we actually double down on the drums, because the drums can be quite simple. So with the drums, what we have is we kept that kick that we already had, and then we started adding in this hat loop. So pretty cool stuff here, doing this kind of standard trick that I usually show with the loops, switching it to transients, having it so the arrow's pointing to the right, and then dialing this back tightens up the loop a lot, so it'll like kind of blend in with your other core hits a lot more. And we got some standard channel strip stuff here, removing some lows, shelving out some highs to remove some of the high end, bringing back the attack a bit so those hits, the transients, aren't hitting as much. We like in an effort to have our core hits taking care of those hard transients. A little bit of side chaining so it's pumping, some width so it's going to left and right, and then a little bringing back the sustain a little bit. I won't go over this again because again, the full video breaking this part down, but this is kind of the quick way that we're able to mix as you go, add in a layer, have it sound pro, and then move on to the next layer, and kind of helps when you're building things out because then things are sounding nice. We had this interesting part that Steven added here, and then we ended up just kind of cutting it up a little bit. So essentially it's just like a drum break or a drum loop that's been cut up so like the parts that we wanted are in it. Then we added in this little shaker. And then you can see the channel strip at the bottom, the changes that we made. Then we added in a hi-hat. So I believe for this one, what I did is to find that open hat sound, sliced an open hat section in the reference track and then right-clicked and did the show similar files functionality to find something similar, which is right here. And Ableton will then like try to find something in your library that sounds similar to that sound, and then that's how I end up finding that particular sound for the open hat. What else we got here? These closed hats, might want to have a look at the pattern. It's a very shuffly kind of thing going on. Usually when programming these in, it's like very much just like working in chunks. So I would probably just like, it's probably started off something like this, working on like one of the first, like the first half of the bar, and then duplicate it over and make slight adjustments to either the velocity or to like the note placement or to which sound is playing, all in an effort to kind of humanize what's going on here. And you can see, you can also drag down the velocity here. So I think if you click anything and then press option, you can then adjust this area down here, and this will change the velocity. It's going to hit somewhere in between here randomly each time. So each time there's something slightly different happening, creating more of a humanization effect. And then we're running into the standard channel strip here, as you can see again. Mostly always doing things to usually tighten things up by removing some of the sustain either in the loop itself. Did we do that on the shaker? We didn't do it on the shaker, but we did like on this. So this is one way to tighten up the sounds. Another way is to have the transient designer, which again I go over in the video here, but this is pulling back the sustain on the transient designer. We have like a snare playing, and then a clap to go over top of it. And then similar kind of little trick I like to do with the claps. As you can see here, it's playing two different clap sounds. So then one's panned a little bit more to the left, one's panned a little to the right, and then changing a variation. So like just on the last hit there, a different clap is playing. Again, just kind of making things a little bit more interesting, trying to make it less loopy. So the sound is evolving over time. Then we had this cool little thing going on. So this is, I think this was like just like an Ableton, something from like the Ableton suite kind of thing. Just threw that in there, kind of adds like a nice little groove to it. Then we added in these top loops here. Very subtle stuff here, mostly just adding in kind of like a little bit of like a shuffly, shakery hat kind of vibe. Again, just pulling back the transients quite a bit here So it's mostly just folding in with the rest of the other sounds here. We added quite a few drum loops on this one. So this is just adding a little bit more like kick and snare to things. Again, I'm sure we've tightened things up quite a bit here. That's why everything sounds really tight. It's all like really the idea is, especially if you're layering in a lot of these things, having them not all loose. So each like hit isn't sustaining a ton and each hit's all sustaining at different lengths. That's when it can make things sound, unprofessional and loose and floppy. But when things are nice and tight, then things can work together a lot in a nice way. Same thing here. Mostly adding a bit more snares, and there's a bit more of like a real drummer played in like a snare vibe with like the extra little fills and flams and stuff like that's going on there. Again, trying to end up on the transient, on the loop, and then standard channel strip stuff here, nothing too crazy. And I think we have just a couple more that I'll quickly show you before going on to the arrangement. So this one's pretty cool. Adding a bit of snares and a little bit of like a lot of that like kind of high end, kind of almost like bell sound that's going on there. And then we have this last one here. And I think this is like a pretty cool disco housey thing, like as opposed to maybe more tech house or other forms of like dance music that it's mostly just like that off hat. I feel like there's a lot more of like a solid like 16th notes, I guess you might say, playing on disco house tracks as if it was like an actual drummer. So you can hear it's just like a lot more going on, those open hats within that sound. Super awesome. Again, all together it sounds like this. So just like a lot of different like samples and layers all coming together to create a cohesive sound. And most of it is like tidying up transient stuff like that to help it sound like it's one drum set as opposed to like a bunch of just loops thrown together. Then let's just quickly go over I think that we'll quickly go over the arrangement. I just went over the arrangement real quick, but I'll kind of show you the quick way of how we were able to do it. Basically, the idea is we built up the loop vertically, added in as many layers as we could, and then we had this arrangement track up at the top that we did in the first step, and we were able to use that as a rough guide and then kind of like then take it into our own creative direction. But this was a way that we were able to very quickly create an arrangement and then start getting more creative with it after that. Especially with the collab, it was really fun because we were able to like pass it back and forth. Like I think I sent back a more standard arrangement, and then that gave Steven the creative like leeway to add in these like extra cool stops that he was showing, and add more interesting kind of transitions and stuff, because very quickly we had like a basic arrangement created. And that's kind of the beauty of being able to, one way is nice because you're able to finish the song very, very quickly. Then also, since you're finishing like the finished arrangement a lot faster, it frees up creative space for you to spend a bit more time on it and then make things a bit tighter. Other than that, I think I dragged in one of the effects groups from like the effects group pack that we have. I think this one was probably the David Penn one, because just kind of part of the experience of like how Steven found me was through that David Penn one. So I think we wanted to use like the effects group from that one. So we just dragged that in. I think if I have it, yeah, here. It's from the structure effects pack, right? So if we just grab any of these, you can just grab this, drag that whole effects group in, and you're kind of really working very, very quickly. And yeah, so then we have all these like nice little like crashes and risers going into each section. Very subtly mixed in is the key with these kind of things. You don't want loud sounding like rolls, like 909 snares and snare rolls, or like laser sounds or crashes. Like sometimes that stuff, when it's too loud mixed in, it sounds really cheesy and corny. But when you like have it nice and subtly mixed in, it can help with each transition and make things sound really tight and really pro, which is kind of the idea here. And then after that, it was just a quick mix and master using the technique in the video that I just dropped. Or I had dropped a while ago. I don't know when you're seeing this, but that's the 20-minute mix and master. So that's where we were doing a lot of group mixing. So compressors and clippers on each bus. And then track spacer on the melodic one. So we're kind of ducking out of the way of the vocal, and then we're just running into the final mixing and mastering chain there. So yeah, if you want to grab the project files, you can check that out in the link in the description. And then also, yeah, make sure you check out the project file page for this one because we have all the individual tutorials for everything that we covered in this video. If you want to check out anything more in depth, whether it's the channel strip mixing, mixing as you go, the final mixing and mastering, anything like the layering that we do, 80/20 referencing, all that is in the project file page, as well as in a YouTube playlist within the description as well. So yeah, hopefully you found this useful. We'll see you in the next one. Hi, my friend, Matt from Best Friends Club here. And if you've been paying attention to this super long video, then you've probably figured out what the 80/20 rule is when it comes to building out your songs. The goal here is to get 80% of the result with only 20% of the time, energy, and effort. And because the first key to the 80/20 rule here is to use a reference track, we're making sure that we're very easily hitting 80% of a high quality, professionally made song. In particular, we use that reference track to make sure that we're picking the right notes, sounds, and volumes as we're building out our song. The second key of the 80/20 rule here is to mix as you go in an extremely streamlined way by only focusing on the volume of each track, as well as using a simple repeatable channel strip for each track that we're adding to our songs. The third and final key is to repurpose your old project files and have a suite of powerful templates, Ableton racks, and one knob effects that you've personalized and curated over time. If you'd like to get a head start by downloading all the racks, templates, and all the files that you've seen me use in the Ableton project file for this video, or if you'd just like to take a closer look at any of the techniques or tracks you saw me work on in this video at your own pace, you can find a link to this video's project files on screen now and at the second link that's in the YouTube description. I'm recreating a different song from the Beatport top charts every single week and making the project files available to anyone who wants them. You'll also get access to a private Discord where you can ask me and the community questions, as well as share tracks for feedback. If you or your music are not quite ready for a shot in the arm like that, I've also made you a completely free bundle of templates, samples, and special bonuses that have helped me figure out how to completely finish one new song each and every single week. And you can grab that free Ultimate Song Finishing Toolkit by visiting the first link that's in the YouTube description here. However, if you just feel like staying on YouTube for now, that's totally fine. Save that link for later and check out this playlist filled with videos just like the one you just watched, where I completely create songs inspired by tracks found in the Beatport top charts. Or if you really want to take what you've learned in this video to the next level, make sure you check out this video right here.